Welcome back to another episode of the Mental Fight Podcast. And on this episode, we're going to do a little recap of season 2. I went back and took a look at some of the clips from all of the guests that I've talked to this past season. And man, it has been a ride. I hope you enjoy some of these clips. As always, go back and watch the first episodes from season 2 if you want to hear the whole conversations. So, tune in.
Storm's coming.
Storm's coming.
There's a fucking storm coming, Dad!
Storm's coming.
When you see that symbol, like, you know what it is and what it symbolizes. And recently I just revamped it. I just wanted to do something new and updated. So like now I got like a new symbol, the one that you're wearing. Thank you very much. Also, you know what I mean? I think that like Fro Nation, you know, will be here for a very long time. You know what I'm saying? It represents us. It represents Afro Nation, Blacks, Black Nation, Afro Nation. It like represents our struggle, our uniqueness, our power. You know what I'm saying? The Afro and the comb is, you know what I'm saying, symbolic to us. It represents a lot of what we went through, especially in, you know what I'm saying, the 60s and 70s. You got the Black Panthers. You think of Soul Train. You know what I'm saying? Think of Snoop Dogg. You know, you think of the Jacksons, Angela Davis, Pam Grier. Like, you just think of like a bunch of things when when a fro and a comb comes to your mind. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. Shout out to everybody that's been supporting. I'm looking forward to doing some more dope things with it. It takes time, especially, you know what I'm saying, when you're an entrepreneur, trying to balance that, trying to put money towards that, trying to put money towards rapping. You still got other bills and other things that you got to do. So that's why, you know, it took a while for it to, you know what I'm saying, get back up and, you know what I'm saying, moving, but it's up and it's moving.
Yeah, that's so dope. That's so dope. So real quick though, I want to just highlight, where can someone find Fro Nation apparel? Where can they find you out there on the web too, if they would like to, you know, take a deeper dive and support?
Oh, for sure. You can go on fronationapparel.com. You can also follow it at Fro Nation Apparel on IG. You can follow me at Bovember Dean on IG. And then if you go on any digital streaming platform, just type in Bo space Dean, and all my music will pop up. YouTube, Bo Dean TV.
I'm super excited to talk about like what was going on as I walked out. So let's jump right into it. Let's pull up the walkout. Let's get into what was going on. So we rehearsed, came up with a whole little dance routine. I was so awkward at first because remember, I was like, in my mind, I was gonna be at a certain spot, but I wasn't there yet. But nevertheless, we're right here. It's so cool seeing you in the background over the Facebook and all the people I missed.
Look at the smile.
We were really getting it.
They were digging it, man. I'm telling you, they were really enjoying it. I mean, I got a kick out of it. You know, my whole coaching career, that's the first time I'd seen anything like that or been a part of anything like that. So it was actually really cool.
Look at you, Precious. You was riding wild.
It was so fun. I remember that. I remembered all the motions, what to do.
Yeah. But what's good about this is like, I feel like I come out, I was like, I'm gonna come have fun, you know, instead of like being filled with like nervous energy, like I rather have like fun, exciting energy coming out. So the dancing and all of that really like just made it feel really fun and less anxiety on the walkout, because that's the most anxious part of like right before the fight starts.
Absolutely. I thought it was great, and I thought it was great for you, for your mental state, and you entering the cage. I thought it was awesome.
Life is going to be great for a period of time, and sometimes life is going to be like, what is this? You know, COVID, so many things. It's the yin and the yang. You know, I love the yin, the whole yin and the yang. I love it because it's real. As much good as there is in the world, there's also that opposite bad, dark part too.
And we can't avoid the fact that that exists, the same way that there's life and there's death. We have to figure out how to be resilient and strong and be able to cope and be flexible with that and still be able to find joy in our days. We also have to remember that we're also human, okay? We're not robots. We have emotions. It's scientifically proven, it's a part of us. It's in like the anatomy of the brain. We have a whole emotional part of our brain that regulates all of that stuff. Why do we deny our emotions? We need to learn about them. We need to understand and how we function. And then we need to, kind of get whatever resources and coping that we need to help us to be able to manage them so that we can function at our best in a variety of different situations. So we can be able to be flexible and float when life throws curveballs at us, right? It's the ongoing fight. It's the ongoing fight. The whole mental fight piece. We have battles. Sometimes, battles just come out of nowhere, and we just gotta be ready to go through it, right? And some battles aren't meant for you to just be all, blood and glory and violence. Sometimes you might have to be, smart and patient while you're going through it. Not every battle is meant for you to just brawl, So we have to be able to learn all these different fight styles and how we handle each battle. Sometimes we win them, sometimes we might lose, but life is the whole thing. It's the whole war, It's a company of a bunch of battles. What do we learn from those battles? What do we take from what we learn from those battles that helps prepare us for the next one that may come? Because it will come. And then when we're in between those battles, how are we recovering? How are we taking care of ourselves to recoup? Or are we just acting like we're machines and we can just go and expecting that we're going to be 100% the next time? No. No. So I love the connection and the analogies of fighting in life because there's just so many. One day I'm going to write a book.
I was just thinking, I totally understand, when you speak of the DSM and, basically kind of having this other approach for this different group of people. For those who may not, understand DSM-5, obviously, why is it important to have different approaches or different, support systems in place for these particular groups of people?
Yeah. So one of the biggest factors that contributes to disproportionate rates of different mental disorders in different communities is minority stress, and this idea that these oppressed and marginalized communities are facing a unique amount of stress and a unique type of stress that other people cannot necessarily understand and relate to. For me, I cannot understand what it would be like to be discriminated against because of the color of my skin, because I'm born into a position of privilege. While you as a woman of color, you have that unique oppression and that unique amount of marginalization that I don't fully understand. I can empathize because I'm also a femme person. I'm also a queer person, and I recognize oppression, but I cannot understand the same type. And because of that, there are these barriers created for treatment of queer individuals and honestly individuals of all marginalized communities, because the research and support systems and treatment modalities that have been created are very few and far between. But whenever you create a treatment approach specifically for a marginalized or oppressed community, this approach will now be created with that specific community in mind and all of the nuances of the community, maybe taking into account the specific amounts of toxic masculinity and internalized transphobia that trans individuals place, but also making space for the idea of masculinity in Black men and how that might affect a Black trans woman. And when you can take into account these unique factors that make recovery harder and that make managing mental health harder, that's whenever you can most effectively deal with it. Because it's like you have weeds all surrounding a tree and the weeds are sapping the life from the tree. Well, it's like you're only plucking half the weeds because you can't go on the other side and see it because you don't know that there's the other side of the tree. So when we have a treatment modality that can be created for somebody in that specific situation, in that specific environment, then we can more effectively treat somebody.
I always try to make sure that who I surround myself, what kind of conversations I'm having, that it puts me in a good space. I don't become like necessarily a hard homebody, but I will make sacrifices and changes because I know that the mental aspect of the game is what's really going to kick in now. So 3, weeks out, that's where it's like you start to really hunker down on what space you need to be in, and just the people you surround yourself around could really affect that. Like you were saying.
Yeah, definitely. It's important to make sure that, like, when you think about just choosing your friends and the people that you associate with, like, do they want your goals for you? You know what I'm saying? Like, do they care about the things that you need to do that's going to help you to achieve your goals, or are they kind of steering you away from the kind of lifestyle that you need to live in order to be successful? And I think within this sport, I've definitely, me personally, have like gravitated towards people who want the same thing, and we have similar lifestyles, and therefore we can actually add to each other's lives versus maybe having to cut some bridges, or create some separation with others whose lifestyles just don't mesh with mine, because we're on a different kind of mission and a different mindset. And so that's very important, especially when what you're doing is not an easy task as well.
Yeah, and sorting that can be difficult because I know there were, some friends in my life that they want to enjoy their summer. And I knew that I can't be doing certain things just because I need to be able to wake up at time, or I want to be able to keep my routine, and I don't want to cut out my morning meditation or reading or getting to the gym early so that I can warm up properly, because Lord knows I need to warm up now.
You only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. So you actually get people to help you feel things out. But it's okay to have an imagination. It's okay to do things differently. So everything that I was taught was based on how my mom was raised. And I understand that just because you've done something forever doesn't mean that it can't be different. It can't change. I think a lot of that had to do with how I see the world. And I think I'm right now unlearning at 31 years old and kind of de-traumatizing myself from my parenting, not only from my mom, but just my family in general, and the way that, like, and I'm the oldest of 6 grandchildren. So, there's this pressure to do and be the perfect person, do everything right.
So, I feel those sentiments too. Definitely. We kind of talk about this in some of our family dynamics groups that we run, about just like some of those family roles that we tend to take on, some of those characteristics, traits. First child is that golden child, that hero child who tends to suffer from a lot of perfectionism or high achievement because they are expected to do very well because they're the first one, right? Yeah. And so, that could be really great, great motivating piece. But then there's also the backslide of it, of like that pressure of like trying to fit this mode and trying to, achieve all of this success. And when I think about all of that, I definitely feel like it has been like a whole journey of having to really dig deep beyond what the expectations that came from your family or culture or your friends, wherever it is that you came from, to truly get to the root of, well, what is it that I want for myself? What actually brings me joy? Came from your family or culture or your friends, wherever it is that you came from, to truly get to the root of, well, what is it that I want for myself? What actually brings me joy? And what is it? Who do I feel that I am? And having to kind of also make sure that there is that alignment with all these things that I've been doing and striving after. Do they actually align with what it is that I want right now today? And as life goes on, sometimes that changes. Honestly, it's inevitable. Like, what if we figure out how to conquer the good days and the bad days, then we figure out life in a sense. If we learn these truths about things that are inevitable, right? And stop trying to control things to create this comfortable life for us. Well, maybe these are opportunities that we're supposed to have that's going to constantly keep us, flexing our mental muscle when we have challenging times. If we don't ever have challenging times, we don't have opportunities to be pushed to a certain level, So it's all about how we choose to perceive these events that happen to us. And I'm starting to get real CBT right now. I've read so many CBT groups. My brain is just like, we got to think about how we're looking at things. We
That's
get to,
so funny.
but
This
it's so
month has
true.
been for my groups. I said this month we're talking about CBT. My groups on Wednesdays. Literally, we're on week 3 of my CBT program.
Yeah. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, for those who don't know, is I feel like it embodies everything. It's I guess how I connect to it much, because being an athlete, it's really about mind-body connection. So I'm really into understanding how my thoughts influence how I feel, which will influence how I perform. And from an athletic standpoint, that's major. Like, are we paying attention to how we perceive our situations and the things that we're doing when we're on the day-to-day of our habits and we're trying to achieve this high level? But I also look at it just from a general framework of anyone who's like wanting to achieve something. How are your thoughts influencing how you feel on the daily, and how are you behaving in response to that? And so when it comes to like wanting to like create some change somewhere, whatever positive change that is, we take a look at those things, take a look inwards and create some better awareness there, create a better relationship with ourselves. Like you were mentioning before, like taking that time to actually not avoid the things that are coming up in you that are true, that we sometimes try to suppress and try to distract ourselves from some of these things that we know that are hindering us from, the next level, the next version of who we could be and who we would like to become,
Because that's, at the end of the day, it's your inner child, that too is, we don't have the information when we're kids to, really fully understand what's going on within. So everyone has an inner child. We all have that thing that was not healed or not taken care of when we were younger. And that's really what, accepting those flaws is.
What have you gained? What strength have you gained from fighting that helps you to keep pushing the pace, to help you to keep driving forward the things that you want in life? So tell me a little bit about how fighting has impacted you, for the positive, for, the negative or challenges. What are some things that have come up for you?
Yeah. So I like to start with the negative and then go to end with the positive. So I will say one fight camp that I went through faith-wise, I'm a Christian, so faith is like really my number one driving force. But I was so hyper-focused on this camp, and I felt myself being pulled from what my purpose was. And so the negative part of it was showing me that I was pulling away from my family. I was pulling away from my schooling to be able to become a chaplain. And it reminded me, you have to share this time. You can't be so hyper focused on one. You got to spread this time out. And so I kind of came out of that fight camp feeling a little guilty and actually overworked. It actually affected my fighting negatively. I was so overworked, and I put almost too much work into my fight camp that I was drained. By the time I got to the fight, it was like, oh my gosh, I put so much into training. And so the negative effect of that was I was too hyper-focused. So it showed me how to balance my life, that I should, again, be able to have faith. I should be able to have my family and my fitness and fighting together. I shouldn't have to eliminate one for the other. It should be able to all blend together, and to be able to do time management, and to be able to put down some days, hey, my body is screaming at me, take tonight off.
Yeah.
So take tonight off. It's okay. You know what I mean? Like, listen to that. At the end of the day, you're going to be ready. You're going to be ready for this fight. It's not like you're eating popcorn for 6 months. You're like, okay, I'm going to hop in the ring. No, you are putting in the work, but listen to your body. Your body needs to recover. Take that time to spend with your family. So that was a negative aspect of it, but also a positive in it of teaching me time management. But fighting in jiu-jitsu, just as a female, has given me so much confidence in my physical look. Like, I don't know how many people are like, oh, you got 3 kids. Yeah, I do. I look great, but also my confidence in just my physical strength and my mental strength. Like I can walk through where I work at. It's kind of bad down here in downtown St. Paul. You walk out and you see a lot of things going on, and you don't know who you're walking by. But I'm able, again, with my faith, to trust in God. He's walking me, he's protecting me, but also my physical actual strength. I know how to defend myself. I know that if something was to happen, I would be able to protect me or my kids, and I'm able to pass that down to my kids. And this is how you protect yourself. If they never compete, I don't care, but I want them to be able, as women, to walk around and say, I know how to defend myself. So physically, fighting has given me so much confidence, and I love sharing that with other women and other people in general, of like, try this martial arts.
Yeah.
You know, and you get humbled. Let me tell you something, like you get humbled in fighting. Like there's days where you're on top of the world, you feel like you could take on the Rock, and then there's other days where you're like, why am I doing this? I think I'm a white belt. I'm not a purple belt today. Like, here, take my belt back, you know? But it's definitely given me this confidence and just the ability to take care of myself.
Ever like in the sport, or being the other person who's supporting someone who's in a fight, like, you know what that feels like. Oh, it's like you're on the edge of your seat, and it's such an emotional place to be in, right?
Yeah, it's like I almost wish I could do the fight for her. You know, I'm just like, oh my god, but it's like that's not how it works. You know, like she's doing this because she loves it. I just got to showcase. I got to show her how much I support her, and just let her go do her thing, and just know she's gonna crush it.
As soon as so I'm here, right, and I'm like, okay, I can either set up arm bars or whatever jiu-jitsu submission base, or I can try and get on top. And then I noticed that she was really heavy on top, like her head and everything. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna work a butterfly hook in. I'm gonna just elevate her and get up if I'm able to. And it worked out. So happy about that.
Yeah, I was still very surprised that you pulled guard, but I think you felt like you were going to go down, so you might as well just make the first move and just get it to like an area you feel good with. Also,
Yeah.
great elevation.
Yeah.
Well, I felt like my head was behind my butt. I was like, it's either I fall back or I pull guard.
Yeah, smart move.
I pull guard.
Yeah.
I think the next part's my favorite part, where she kind of tries to like get up on you and you snap her down.
Oh yeah, I kind of felt like I could have go for a guillotine, but I didn't want to fold on my back again.
Right. I think you definitely made the right call there.
So right here, I actually thought she was gonna be more scrambly, like she's gonna like cross face me and try and get to her knees or something. Like I thought she would be more scrambly, because I've seen that in previous fights. So that's what I was expecting. Man, I'm just happy, like my spin to the back, snap him down and spin to the back worked, because you know how much we drilled that, Bernie, in wrestling practice.
I know, those like Wednesday wrestling days.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
So here, so I was expecting her to hold on to my arm like crazy, like here. But she had let it go, so I did the Rams grip, and then she let it go right there, and I was like, "Oh crap!" And I knew I was on the chin, but I was like, "Crank it, screw it, crank it," and I was cranking it as hard as I could. I even felt her jaw like move to the side.
Yeah. The misconception that you can't finish it if you land on the chin, like, no, make that shit hella uncomfortable. We're gonna have to make a choice.
For sure. And then my team couldn't see me, but as soon as I got to the other side, they were like, "Oh crap, it's underneath the chin."
Yeah.
Originally, I thought it was just a face crank, but I mean, I know you can finish that just over the jaw, but I didn't. When you rocked back, that's when it like went under the chin.
Oh my god, how embarrassing. I'm sorry. I'm so embarrassed on my freaking scream right here.
What do you need, that primal yell?
Hey, that's funny. I've always thought about this. I always thought about what kind of fight was going to evoke me to scream, and I haven't been able to figure it out yet. So you must have been really feeling that, Lisa. You felt that.
I was, but dang, man. Like, I was like, even one of the commentators were all like, some glass is rattling somewhere. I'm like, oh.
That was Randy Couture.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah, that was Randy Couture. Look at you. There it is.
When you think about fighting, I know we had conversations just about the mentality of fighting. How has fighting impacted like your mental?
Well, everything that I look at in life, I'm always either comparing it to boxing or structuring it in a way that I can understand from a boxer standpoint.
Yeah.
I feel like boxing has been one of the hardest things I've ever done, and then continue to do. So when something gets rougher, I'm just like, it's 12 round. You tired. But, you can, the analogies always go back to boxing. So it's been I don't want to say a crutch, but it's, coping mechanism, I should say. Like, I've taken L's before in front of the whole world.
Yeah.
I've gotten my ass whooped in front of the whole world. Had the whole world talking shit about me for, the next 2 weeks. And, I've been able to come back from that and compile wins and get myself in positions of respect again. It sucks that boxing loses and gains respect, like the wind and waves, but I chose it. But nonetheless, if I could do that, life, what's life gonna throw at me aside from like, a major tragedy? All that other extra shit that you just have to go through in life, the ups, whether it's financial, emotional, or even mental hardship, that's just part of it. That's part of the training. That's part, every time I've gotten in good shape, before I was in pain, sore, stiff, you know what I'm saying? But after I got out that pain, I'm always stronger and more endured. So I just got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And boxing has taught me how to, go through shit. My wife, she's a little bit of a worrier. So whenever, she gets rough, she's like, oh, what we're going to do is like, what, you're right, we should get a plan, but it doesn't really matter. Whatever we got to do, you know what I mean? We're going to make it happen. And it always works that way. And then, of course, my faith in the Most High, he'll never let me down. You know what I'm saying? Every time I've fallen, he picked me up, or he gave me the strength to get back up on my own. Either way you look at it, I'm still standing. So, thank God for boxing. We're made of stardust, right? The same thing that was made in the beginning of the galaxy, at the beginning of the universe, is what we're made out of. Literal stardust. And that's science. It's not even just, theology.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. You going all the way back to science and molecules and all the little electronics and all the things.
The atoms that we're made out of is the same atoms that was created in the universe. And, the same thing, the stardust is what makes up some of our molecules. We have iron in our blood. That's a heavy metal. And it's broken down to the point that there's iron in our blood, right? A lot of it.
Yeah.
And then, don't even get me started about iron. Like, there's only so much, and it was made at this one point of one. And then, the idea of microcosmos and macrocosmos. There's universe within, the universe without. It's the same thing. It's made of the same literal stuff. So they say you change yourself, you will be changing the universe. Now, you could look at it as saying like, all right, well, if I'm a better person, then I will make my immediate surroundings better, right? Which is just another thing of making, the universe a little bit more better, at least the earth. But then you could also look at it in the sense of like, no. In quantum physics, they just found out that we don't know if there's like the universe existed before we observed it. They're now thinking that you have to observe something to make it be reality, right? It's the observable universe that we've now seen is now real because we see it. And not to say that nothing else is observed, and we don't have to be the ones to observe it, but it needs to be observed to be a reality. That's the new thing in quantum field, right? And that also, if you've seen each other at one point, or if you've had an observation moment between two particles, no matter where they are, in space or time, that those two particles can affect each other, right? You can affect each other. We're made out of the universe. Everything that made the universe is what we are made out of. So we make ourselves better. We affect everything that's been in our observational area at any point in time. We make that better. We affect that throughout the universe. So it's like, I mean, you could look at it as metaphorically, oh, you change yourself, you change the universe, or you could look at it as like literally. You're literally changing the whole universe. And we have dominion over that. The only thing we don't have dominion over is God.
Evolution has been happening, and I'm glad you can see it in all of us. Like, the team is doing good.
Yeah, I know I see it on the other side. I'm just like seeing y'all winning. I'm seeing y'all like making it to the big stage where I always knew that you belonged, because, you know, day in and day out, that grind, man. And when you stick to it, you know, it feels good when it pays off and you make it where you're going.
It does. And honestly, it's just a question of keep going. That's just the thing.
I'm just gonna start with my thought of when I got to Oyama and the kind of training that we did. You know, Monday through Thursday, 2 trainings a day. Then Saturday, our lovely fun Saturday track day. This sparring. And I was like, wow, if I didn't want to be a fighter, if this wasn't for me, I wouldn't have like hung in there. So I really found myself through the training. What has fighting been for you? Like, what have you gotten from fighting? And why in the first place?
Yeah, straight up, why? I mean, I think personally, me, I always felt it. I always felt it since I was young. My mom and my dad can tell you. Even when I was on parties with my cousins, with my friends, with other little kids that I didn't even knew. And this is things that I do have memories of. Like, I was always fighting. Like, it was like a way of me to interact with other kids too. I think when I was young, I didn't do it on, even still till right now. If you know me, you know how I am, and I wasn't doing it for the like being mean or just to fight. I think it's just the competition that wasn't me. I wanted to compete, and physically competing wasn't me since I was really young. I tried a lot of sports. Nothing really stick to me. I like them, but nothing really would fill me up or push me. But when I stepped in the mat for the first time, wow, fighting was what I wanted to do. I got tapped. I remember I got tapped by my coach and his son, like in 5 seconds. They used to they grab my arm, tap me. They grab my arm, tap me. Wrist lock, every single type of easy submission. And I got so mad. I got so mad that first day. I was like, man, I want to go there and tap them. Like, I don't want them to be tapping me. And I think it was just the competitive part in me. And I just keep going. I knew since I stepped in the mat that I wanted to be a UFC champion, that I wanted to be in the UFC. It was something that I already knew. And it's crazy how life just like put you there. And like you say, I came to Oyama and everything was harder. Everything was different. The life of a fighter really hit me in terms of like, okay, like it's not all butterflies and rainbows. And but like you say, if this wasn't what I am, like I don't know. I don't think I would be here already, like still. So I really feel fighting just fills me up and completes me a lot as a person. It shows me a lot of things about me that I don't think a person or school or just normal things in life will show me. Like the pace and the intensity in being a fighter, it's something that for sure I was made for. Robert right here, down here, like he is the type of guy who you see and, oh wow, this guy might kill someone, and he will. You know, he will. He's a great fighter. Like I think fighting is in him more than everyone else. But like you just listened to him saying that he was training since he's 4 years old. So like, come on.
What you got to say about that, Robert?
What you have to say,
I don't know. For me, like I feel like I cannot stop doing this. You know, like if I stop doing this, I just start like being angry all the time, like being like in a bad mood. You know, like I need to do it. I need to. I don't know. I just like to. I like that's what I like about boxing, because I just hitting the back all day and moving and
All day.
getting tired, So I just love it, That's what I like to do since I was a kid. Obviously, like when I was back in Mexico, and I was a teenager, for me it was like something like I don't know how to say, like almost impossible, because in Mexico you don't have like the same opportunities, you don't have the same promotions, you don't get paid the same way,
Yeah.
So it was like there's no way, I'm not gonna fight for living, So but no, like I just keep doing it because I love it, and I feel like God just put me the opportunities on the table, and I just been taking it, and well, thank God I'm here now, training with the best fighters like Fernando, learning from him, learning from Coach Ayama, and all the people that is here, like I've been learning a lot since I
Yeah. I feel the
here.
same way
I
too.
don't even speak a little bit of English, and
Yeah. Your English is getting so good though. You could always somehow find a way to outwork that person, because if they're not, putting in the same amount of effort and energy too, then there's ways they can be beaten as well. So their hard work is key. Kind of going back, I remember the last round you had mentioned just about coming into the sport and like jujitsu and just like the diversity of like so many different kind of people, and thinking about like that piece that kind of brought my mind back up too, because I remember and I realized too that I've met so many interesting people that I would never have met before, and people with so many different like interests, and I feel like that aspect too definitely like has like add to me as a person, just of like different kind of people that you meet and things that you get exposed to as well. Man, it's been like such a cool ride, and I really enjoy that aspect of it too, with the grind and like having how do you say camaraderie? Why do they even try to say that word? Yes. I have such a hard time saying that word. Anyway, getting all of that good stuff while you're also grinding hard and having like also that kind of team aspect that builds too. Everyone's like doing their individual thing, but it is really nice to also still kind of like gain that supportive piece from the people that you train with every day too.
Yeah, people you would never be around had you not been at that gym. Like I just had lunch yesterday with a friend of mine, David Kirkpatrick, who I met way back when I first started, and he's just some big time software designer or whatever, some big time guy, with like 3 sons, homeschooled them all, some big time family, white picket fence type family, and he's one of my closest friends.
Yeah.
He's like twice my age, but he's just someone I met at the gym who I got really close to, and we're totally different.
Yeah. I'm like, man, my network is so good. I just fall into the group chats and be like, hey, man, I have some plumbing issues. Anybody know how to deal with it? Like literally, my old teammate Lucas, like he literally came and like helped me with a plumbing issue, and I was like, man, that was just so dope to be able to just like have people who just do so many different things, and like we all come together and do this one thing.
Oh, my coach does that. My coach like a mug. Anybody that comes in the gym, when they sign up, oh, what do you do? He's on it.
He's like, all right, we got us this guy now. You know what's funny? Lisa sent this like memory, and it was literally like 4 years ago, and I was just so amazed at like how much time has passed since I've been there. What's been going on with you? Like, how have you been? What's going on in the fighting world? What's new?
Nothing really. I mean, I had my son. He's 2.5, so he's a little bit of an animal, definitely keeps me on my toes. I opened up an Acai Republic out in Orange County. And fighting, I actually moved to Vegas.
Yeah.
I bought a house in Vegas. I still train with Team Oyama, but I'm out here in Vegas like full time. Bought my house, a little cheaper to buy a house. Being a grown up, it wasn't like back in the day.
Look at you growing up and stuff. Oh, yeah, I see you out there being a pappy.
Yeah, man. That's probably the best thing. Definitely changed me. I got a little soft.
Oh, yeah. I was like, yeah, well, in the very beginnings, I was like, you just mean for no reason. Just mean for no reason.
It's called tough love. Tough love. People don't get it nowadays.
Tough love. Yeah. Leave things better than you found them. That's a quote that you shared. What does that mean to you, and how does that resonate?
So this is one of my favorite quotes from Inky Johnson. Actually, is one of my favorite guys to listen to, and my good friend and one of my mentors, Rob Sepulveda, that he kind of got me on him, and that just means like my job, like when I first look at it, is to leave like the place better than what I found it. Whether it's work, whether it's like this what I'm doing. So like for me, that means to me is like I want to show kids in my area that if they come from Lemoore, that like you can do something, right? So I'm leaving the place better than found it. I graduated, went to junior college, and then now I'm in the UFC, but I'm traveling. I'm leaving that place better than what I found it. Maybe not in the sense like I've put in money into it, but I'm leaving, like showing kids that they can leave, they can go somewhere. And that's kind of what I want to do with that, and also with fighting, right? I'm definitely a person, like, it's crazy to me that, like, I didn't get assigned team captain. Like, I didn't, like, say, hi, I'm team captain, this and that. Like, I usually just show people what I'm doing. That I'm a leader by the work ethic I put in. Like, I'm probably one of the hardest working people. Like, I'm there. I'm the first one there. I'm usually one of the last ones to leave. I'm pushing everybody. I'm pushing myself. Things like that. So I always wanted to put, like, leave it better than what I found it. I wanted people to see whether when I left the fighter house and stuff like this, like, hey man, it's a lot harder than what it seems. Like, it might look easy, but it's hard. But I want to show you guys, like, you guys can do it. I was in the same path as all you guys were. Like, we all came from, like, I wouldn't say nothing, but we all kind of came from nothing to live in this fighter house to all of us training together. We're all doing the same things, and then look where I'm going. I wanted to leave a, like, kind of a message, like, hey, look, you guys can follow that step too. We all have different journeys, like, obviously, different weight classes, different fights, things like that, different bumps in the road. But I just wanted to show everybody, like, that for me, showing everybody that I'm leaving this place better than what I found it. Like, I went into a fighter house not in the UFC. I left the fighter house as being number one contender for a UFC title. And my, like I said, my thing was I wanted to show everybody in that house that you can go from being not in the UFC to being in the UFC to be a title contender if you put your mind to it.
How has fighting, like, played a role in your life, or how has it impacted you, like, as a person, like, just in totality?
Well, I mean, I'm like a lifer at this point. I started fighting when I was a teenager. I just turned 31, so I feel like this has been my life. So it's definitely impacted me. I had to learn a lot of resiliency and mental strength, because there's so many times it's like, dang, if I put this much effort into anything, I feel like I'd be successful or more successful, So that was one thing. It just taught me how to be, like, resilient, and stay the path and enjoy the journey. That was one thing. So you might not reach the destination that you think or that you set for yourself, but like I was talking about the journey and like how much growth you'll get from the journey and learning to love the journey. I think it's all part of that hard work paying off. And then so that one's big for me, because I'm not someone who likes to just. I think a lot of people like to talk about hard work and like to talk about what they do, but I don't know if they're actually even doing those things. They might not be telling you that, oh, I have this perfect diet, but they're cheating at night. They're going in there for, they might tell you I'm hitting these workouts, but they're not hitting all those workouts. So I try to I try to, do what I say, and I try to, like, show that through hard work, and show my family. Like, I bring my little brother since he's young. I bring him to practices, and I show him like how I'm busting my ass in these practices, and showing that it's, like, possible through hard work. Like, I'm living this dream because I'm working every day towards it.
I started from that negative motivation of, like, this is how I'm going to control my world. I'm going to exert dominance, and becoming the best I can at this sport, and that's how I'm going to find love. I'm going to win. The more that I win, the more love and affection that I get from people around me and all of this other stuff. Then you start to kind of develop a negative, like transactional approach to like love and relationships, whether it's friendships, maternal, paternal relationships, all that kind of stuff. And then I realized too, like a large part of my upbringing, it really caused me to like live in my head, right? So, and to kind of tie it all up at the end, is like if you think about what I do now, I not only fight, right? I started speaking in a different way, not just physically and literally. Like when I go on TV and I'm talking about fights, and it's like, oh, like I start doing it and people think it's like profound. I'm like, yo, I'm literally just saying things that have been in my head like since I was little. I learned to survive by staying out of the way. Like that was another one of my coping mechanisms. It's like when you have to walk around in an environment where you're constantly walking on eggshells, the only way to survive is to literally stay out the way, because if I stay out the way, then I can't do anything wrong. And if I'm not doing nothing, then I'm not going to draw this negative attention towards me, right? And that worked for a little bit for me. I got through school that way, doing just enough to get by, you know, like never drawing attention to myself. Like, you know, I never would do my homework, but I do really well at tests. Like, all right, I'm a C average. Like nobody's like looking at me. I'm good. I'm just going to float through life. But then you realize it's like, man, you know how many opportunities I probably floated past, you know, whether it's like direct opportunities to kind of grow and excel, or just even intrinsically. And so like, even I approach that, I guess I could market that towards fighting. It's like, okay, once I got out of that shell of being like, I'm going to use this to control the world around me. And then, you know, I progressed into it and I realized like, oh, like I don't identify with that anymore. What it really is for me is like, fighting is a cerebral academic thing for me. And I never even realized it until I start getting around people like Dean Thomas. You know, we've trained with Dean Thomas, you know, how he approaches everything. And then, you know, as we're spending time with each other, like even outside of training and inside of training, and we're just sitting down, and before you know it, training ended 20 minutes ago, but we're sitting here talking about physics and angles and how we can apply it towards everything we're doing. I'm like, oh, like I've always loved the academic pursuit of fighting, and then the focus that I could get while I'm training. It's not about exerting force or physical damage. It's like when I get into that zone where I can slow things down, like I'm kind of addicted to that, right? So then I'm like, oh, those things are very positive. This is how I identify with fighting, which then it's like, as I begin to kind of get to know myself a little bit more and become academic towards my approach with it, then I started like speaking and like telling people how I see things. And like, in my mind, I'm saying like the most basic things or whatever. And I'm like, everybody thinks this, right? And then as I say it, and then I say stuff and people are like, yo, that's kind of like deep. And I'm like, really? Like, really? And then I'm speaking, and before you know it, the kid who learned to survive by shutting up realizes like, oh, like, yo, the way that I think and the way that I speak is probably my biggest strength that I have.
You have to just embrace the fact that it takes time to develop these skills, especially if you're doing all these different disciplines.
It never ends. Man, it never ends. You can always get better at something. And you don't necessarily have to make them all equal, right? Because you have your strength. You should always focus on your strength. But if you feel like that you're lacking, that's dangerous, right? That you go into a fight with that much of a gap is dangerous, then you need to work that a little more. But 2-3 weeks before you start actually like priving yourself and like giving your body less than he needs, when you're right at the spot where you don't want to give him more, but you lost the additional weight, the weight that you actually didn't need, and you're just like smaller, faster, better, stronger, everything, like more energy, you're sleeping better, you know, the fighting shows that that's for us fighters, for us smart fighters. Because back in the day in Brazil, I would eat whatever the hell I wanted until 5 days before the fight, until like 10 days before the fight. Yeah, I used to be a lightweight. I'm a featherweight now, but I used to be a lightweight because my body was just bigger, and it was impossible to cut that much weight with my discipline. And when I moved to the US and started being more of a productive person, started to work more, or work at all, aim for something for my life. I started eating clean. It was my goal to have a long career, and I knew that I had to the thing that I could change, the variable that I could change for the most benefit was diet. And I just went full tilt. I tried to go cold turkey, completely clean, and cold turkey never works, so I'll fall off. And so I was getting better. Like you said, you still have your vices, but getting better is the goal. Gradual changes is really what sticks.
Yeah.
So I tried to go cold turkey, but it ended up being gradual, because every time I would fall off, and then I'll fall off less, and they'll fall off less intense.
Yeah.
To the point that I was able to keep. And nowadays I eat very, very clean, take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the best things that I got going on for me, I think. And I became a featherweight. I found out that I was featherweight once I started eating clean. When I started eating clean, my body was like decreased. Started feeling a whole lot better. Like, I think I can get way lower than the lightweight.
Before in the first round, you mentioned the quote, "Fate loves the fearless," and you spoke a little bit about it. And when you asked me to kind of interpret what that meant to me, I thought about it, and I was like, "Oh, it just made my brain start going in so many directions," because it's like, how shall I interpret this? When one thing that I think about like fate is there's this piece that's already determined and that we're kind of on our way. And for those who embrace leaning into things and go about life without fear, and they're willing to, I guess, let life take them sometimes, maybe fate love those people because they're willing to be able to go with it and flow into different spaces and different times. And adaptability too. That was kind of some of the thoughts that I had about it, but I know that you kind of had a different interpretation of it.
I think you're right. I think it's all those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you have to be adaptable. I think if you're not, then you go extinct, right? And that's part of being fearless, is you have to be adaptable. I remember hearing, watching the DVD Choke with Hickson Gracie, and he was saying, "I'm afraid of everything," and I was like, "What is this guy talking about? Afraid of everything?" And then I realized, like, yeah, I mean, it's okay to have fear. I think we all have fear, and it's pushing past that fear. I told my boys, like, it's okay to have your feelings hurt, and it's okay to cry. It doesn't mean you're not a man. It's not okay. It's okay to worry, but it's not okay to not have action. No, you can't just freeze and not do anything. No, it's the absence of that, though. Like, you have to move forward. Or me in class, like, how does a shark stay alive? It moves forward, right? All those things, like, you have to constantly be moving. You have to challenge yourself. You have to challenge the universe, and that's why I believe in fate loves the fearless, and playing with the house money. Like, it's just, it's my turn. Like, every Deion Sanders said, somebody's going to be great tonight. Why not me? And I fully believe in that. At the end of the day, everybody's going to go home talking about somebody. Yeah. Why not me? Yeah. And that kind of stuff excites me. And I don't know what the difference is between this person and me, when it can absolutely be me, because I'll work just as hard as anybody else, and I'll train just as hard, and I can be just as technical as anybody. And unfortunately for everybody else, my mother told me I could be anything in the world, and I listened to her. So,
Yeah. I mean, it's the power of believing it, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I try to bestow that on my students and on my own kids, and, just anybody around me. I want them to feel the power of that. And it doesn't mean I'm special. I want them to know how special they are. Like, and when you have people that believe in you and you believe in yourself, that's a powerful thing. So yeah, fate loves the fearless, right?
I was in pain for a really long time. Finally got an MRI, got the back surgery, and I just remember being like not being able to sleep. So I was just like laying in the bed because I was on bed rest. I'm so used to being a busybody. I'm just like laying there, and I'm just like, what are you amounted to if you can't do anything physical? And I was like, that's when I made the decision. I need to build my mental capacity and work on my resilience, like my spirit and my mind. I always knew I can get my body in shape. As much as people think that's a hard thing, I'm like, that's really the easy thing. The hard thing is the mental aspect of it. Of everybody wants to get in shape, no one wants to stay in shape. We don't play. That's not a finite game. You're trying to put an end to this. Like, when I get a six pack, I'll stop running, or when I lose 10 pounds, I'll stop working out. I was like, no, the goal is to stay in shape, not get in shape. So I knew I could like get my body back whenever, even though doctors were telling me, oh, you might not be like this, because you don't have no disc in your lower spine, or it's little to none, And I was just like, I'm not hearing what y'all saying. And I just remember being on the bed, and I couldn't think of anything to be grateful for. And like, that was kind of a low point, because I was just like, I'm gonna show them. I was just like, as an athlete, I'm gonna show them motherfuckers. Like, they said they not gonna walk. I'm gonna walk straight. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna be athletic. I'm gonna build my body back up. And I remember, like, I couldn't think of anything to be grateful for, and I just said, like, it's a good day to be alive. Like, it's a good day to be alive. Like, if that's all you got to be grateful for, at least that's it. And then I just followed it up with, like, man, it's not just a good day to be alive. Like, anybody can just be good. That takes a tiny bit of effort, but you want to be great. And I always love the underdog story. So I was always the underdog in my own story. I'm like, they say you couldn't do this, watch this. Mm-hmm. So like, my first amateur title fight, which was like 2 years after that car accident, or 2 years or a year and a half or something like that. Not the car accident, after the surgery. I just remember just screaming so loud in the cage, like every amateur fighter does.
Where I'm from, it's a third world country in a sense. And over there, you have to fight to survive, you know. Mm-hmm. And I'm from there, and I moved to the United States, and I feel like I have to do something great to, you know, the opportunity I have in life, where I end up in life, you know. In the United States, the greatest country in the world, and I feel like I have to do great with it. And I feel like fighting is something I'm good at naturally, and I feel like I can build off that to something great, you know. Yeah. So that's one of the driving aspects that drives me to become a better be a fighter, really.